need some time to adapt to Ferrari, right? Turns out, he had other plans. In his very first test with the SF25, he was already demanding major changes. But here's the big question. Does this mean Ferrari has a serious issue? Or is this just a move of a driver who knows exactly what he needs to win? Today, we're diving into everything that happened behind the scenes during Bahrain testing and how Hamilton's demands could completely reshape Ferrari's season. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to F1 News, turn on notifications, and buckle up. This is about to get interesting. Picture this. You finally get the car of your dreams, a brand new Ferrari. You hit the throttle, and something feels off. That's exactly what Hamilton experienced. The braking response wasn't quite right. The balance in the corners wasn't what he expected, and the steering wheel adjustments felt foreign. But does this mean Ferrari is in trouble? Or is this just a normal adaptation process for a driver who spent over a decade in Mercedes machinery? Here's the million-dollar question. Can the changes Hamilton is asking for actually turn the SF25 into a title-winning car? Tiny adjustments can make a massive difference. Fine-tuning the pedals, improving brake response, it all adds up. And if you think Hamilton is the first champion to face this dilemma, let's take a quick history lesson. Michael Schumacher, 1996 to 2000, came into Ferrari, demanded radical changes, and boom, 5 straight world titles. Fernando Alonso, 2010, asked for tweaks, the car never delivered, and he ended up watching championships slip away. Sebastian Vettel, 2015, Ferrari never fully adapted the car to his driving style, and he left Maranello frustrated. So, which path will Hamilton follow? Will he be the second coming of Schumacher? Or will this be another case of Ferrari heartbreak? One thing's for sure, Ferrari is doing everything in their power to give Hamilton what he needs. But here's the catch. What happens with Leclerc? If Hamilton starts the season stronger, will Ferrari back him immediately? Or if Leclerc outperforms him in the opening rounds, will Ferrari ignore some of Hamilton's demands to support their homegrown star? Because let's not forget what happened in 2019 when Leclerc and Vettel fought for team leadership. It turned into an absolute disaster. So, has Ferrari learned from their mistakes? Or are we about to witness another internal war? But before we get to that level of drama, the most important question is whether Ferrari can make these adjustments in time for the first race in Bahrain. If the rumors are true that the SF25 has gained 0.4 seconds per lap, then Ferrari might finally be on Red Bull and McLaren's level. But that will only be confirmed when the car goes head-to-head with its rivals in real race conditions. And here's something crucial. If Hamilton is demanding precise adjustments, will he have enough time to feel completely comfortable before the season opener? During pre-season testing in Bahrain, Leclerc was asked about Hamilton's arrival and didn't hesitate to praise their partnership. For me, Ferrari has the best driver lineup, but we have to prove it on track, said Leclerc. Which sounds all well and good, until they hit the first corner in Bahrain and neither wants to back off. Leclerc knows time is running out. He still hasn't won a title, and now he has the most successful driver in F1 history sitting next to him in the garage. If he was feeling the pressure before, Ferrari just cranked it up to maximum. Ferrari wrapped up testing in Bahrain without any major disasters, a rare sight for Maranello. But the real question is whether the SF25 is good enough to take the fight to Red Bull and McLaren. The early signs suggest Ferrari has made progress, but progress isn't enough. They need to win. And here's the elephant in the room. Can Hamilton and Leclerc keep things civil, or is Ferrari about to become a battlefield? Because history tells us that when two elite drivers share a team, things usually go sideways. Hamilton versus Alonso in 2007. All-out war, McLaren self-destructed, and Raikkonen stole the title. Hamilton versus Rosberg in 2016. Absolute chaos, Rosberg won, retired, and Mercedes had to clean up the mess. Leclerc versus Vettel in 2019. Ferrari spent more time managing infighting than fighting for championships. For now, Hamilton says everything is great between him and Leclerc. We talk about music, fashion, we get along well. Sure. That's all nice and friendly, until they're both fighting for the same piece of track in Bahrain. Then we'll see how strong that friendship really is. If 2024 left Ferrari with the feeling of being so close, yet so far, 2025 has to be different. They had a real shot at the Constructors' Championship last year but lost out to McLaren by just 14 points. Leclerc hasn't forgotten. The goal is always to win. Second place is not good enough, he said. And he's right. No more excuses. Ferrari has a new car, they've learned from their mistakes, and now they have the most successful driver on the grid. But is that enough to dethrone Verstappen and Red Bull? And what about McLaren, who just keep getting stronger with Norris and Piastri? Frederick Vasseur is convinced that Hamilton is the missing piece Ferrari needs. He's described the seven-time champion as the key to bringing Ferrari back to glory. But we've heard this before. Great champions have arrived at Ferrari with dreams of restoring the team to its former greatness, and not all of them succeeded. Alonso tried. Vettel tried. What will make Hamilton's story different? The key could be his leadership, his ability to build a team around him, and his strategic intelligence on track. If he can accelerate the SF25's development and help Ferrari avoid the strategic mistakes that have cost them wins in recent years, then yes, we might be looking at a Ferrari resurgence. But again, it all depends on what happens inside the team. If Leclerc and Hamilton can coexist, Ferrari will have an unbeatable lineup. If not, we're looking at another 2019-style civil war. The countdown to the 2025 Formula One season is almost over, and Ferrari fans are already sharpening their pitchforks, either to celebrate a long-awaited title fight or to riot if things go sideways. The Hamilton-Leclerc dynamic is brewing into one of the most fascinating storylines in years, and with testing in Bahrain revealing both promise and a few headaches, it's clear that Ferrari is no longer here to participate. They're here to burn rubber, fight for pole positions, and, hopefully, not self-destruct in the process. But let's get real for a second. Testing times are like Tinder bias. They look promising, but you won't know the real deal until the first date. Bahrain's pre-season tests showed that the SF25 has serious potential, but the ghost of Ferrari's past failures still looms large. Are we looking at a well-balanced machine that can finally take the fight to Red Bull? Or is this just another case of pre-season optimism before reality comes crashing down at the first race weekend? Hamilton's been in the game long enough to know that winning starts in the fine details, and that's exactly why he's already pushing Ferrari to make changes. The brake response, the throttle feel, the setup, all those little elements that, in the hands of an elite driver, can turn a fast car into a world champion's car. But with time running out before lights out in Bahrain, the real question is whether Ferrari can implement these tweaks fast enough to ensure Hamilton feels at home in his new machine. Meanwhile, Leclerc is sitting in the other garage, quietly watching as his new teammate reshapes the team. This isn't just another season for the Monegasque. It's the season. He's been the face of Ferrari for years, but now there's a seven-time world champion wearing red alongside him, and that changes everything. Can Leclerc rise to the occasion and establish himself as Ferrari's true number one? Or will Hamilton's arrival overshadow him completely? History tells us that when Ferrari has two top-tier drivers, things get complicated. We saw it with Schumacher versus Barrichello, which, let's be honest, wasn't much of a rivalry, Alonso versus Massa, and most recently, Leclerc versus Vettel. And here's where things get spicy. Ferrari doesn't do equal treatment for long. Eventually, they pick a side. So who's it going to be? If Ferrari is serious about winning the Constructors' Championship, they'll need both Hamilton and Leclerc operating at peak performance. But let's not kid ourselves. Formula One is a driver's championship first. If Leclerc starts the season stronger, will Ferrari still prioritize Hamilton, given that they lured him away from Mercedes for this exact reason? And if Hamilton is outperforming Leclerc early on, will Ferrari abandon their golden boy and throw all their weight behind their new signing? And then, of course, there's Red Bull. Let's not pretend like Ferrari is fighting this battle alone. Verstappen isn't going anywhere, and despite some early struggles in testing, Red Bull remains the team to beat. Sure, Verstappen was visibly frustrated with the RB21's handling, but we've seen this before. Red Bull plays the long game. They sandbag, they test setups, they make you think they're struggling, until race day, when Verstappen puts in a lap so quick you start questioning if he's even bound by the laws of physics. McLaren, meanwhile, is lurking in the shadows. Norris and Piastri are not just a problem for Ferrari, they are a massive problem. That car looks sharp in testing, and if McLaren gets their strategy right, which is a big if, considering their past disasters, They might just be the dark horse nobody's fully prepared for. So, where does this leave us heading into Bahrain? Ferrari is fast. Maybe not Red Bull destroying fast, but fast enough to be in the conversation. McLaren is the wild card, and Mercedes is still a bit of a mystery. Russell looks solid, but they haven't shown enough to make anyone believe they're suddenly championship contenders again. The big question remains, is Ferrari really back? We've been here before. Every year, the Tifosi get hyped up, believing that this is finally the season where Ferrari puts everything together. And every year, heartbreak. But something feels different this time. The SF25 looks solid, the team seems more structured, and they've got Hamilton bringing all his Mercedes experience into the mix. If Ferrari starts strong in Bahrain and delivers in the opening rounds, we could be looking at a real title fight. If they stumble, however, well, we all know what happens when Ferrari stumbles. Panic, chaos, and a strategic disaster class that ends with "we are checking." The 2025 Formula One season is now truly upon us, and after months of speculation, testing, and enough rumors to fill an entire soap opera, we are finally about to get some answers. Bahrain testing gave us our first real glimpse into what this season might look like, and while some questions were answered, even more have emerged. Ferrari's bold signing of Lewis Hamilton was always going to make headlines, but what we've seen in testing suggests this move isn't just about PR, it's about winning. The SF25 has shown genuine pace, enough to keep Red Bull on their toes and make McLaren sweat. But pace in testing doesn't mean dominance when the racing starts. It's one thing to go fast in controlled conditions with low fuel and the perfect track temperature. It's another thing entirely to deliver under the heat of battle when Verstappen is breathing down your neck and McLaren is executing flawless undercuts. That's where Ferrari's real challenge begins. This team hasn't won a championship since 2008, and while they've flirted with title fights in the past, they've always been the team that gets close but ultimately falls short. The question now is, has Ferrari finally built a complete package, both on and off the track? Because winning in F1 isn't just about a fast car, it's about execution. It's about making the right strategy calls, having bulletproof reliability, and ensuring that the entire team operates at the absolute peak of its abilities. And that's where Hamilton comes in. He isn't just another driver. He's a 7-time world champion who has spent years winning races through a combination of raw talent, intelligence, and experience. His ability to guide a team, extract every ounce of performance from a car, and make split-second race decisions is what makes him such a dangerous competitor. But Ferrari isn't Mercedes. This is a team with a history of making, let's say, interesting decisions. They're the kings of "we are checking" and Plan F. So the real test isn't just whether Hamilton can go fast, it's whether he can elevate Ferrari into a title-winning machine. And what about Leclerc? For years, Charles has been the golden child of Ferrari, the man they've built their future around. He's blisteringly fast, ruthlessly aggressive, and adored by the Tifosi. But now, he faces the biggest challenge of his career. He's no longer the clear number one in the team. He's no longer the driver Ferrari automatically rallies behind. He's now sharing a garage with a Lewis Hamilton, and that changes everything. The dynamic between Leclerc and Hamilton could define Ferrari's season. If they work together, push each other, and extract the absolute maximum from the SF25, Ferrari could have one of the strongest lineups in modern F1 history. But if tensions rise, if strategy favors one driver over the other, if one starts to outshine the other, if Ferrari fumbles their internal politics, then we could see fireworks. And let's be honest, Ferrari hasn't always been the best at managing driver rivalries. We've seen it before. Vettel versus Leclerc in 2019 was chaotic. Alonso versus Massa in 2010 created tension. Even back in the Schumacher days, Ferrari had to create a clear number one driver system because they simply couldn't manage equal footing between teammates. So what happens now? If Ferrari is serious about winning, they need to be absolutely ruthless in how they manage their drivers. If Hamilton starts the season stronger, they need to back him. If Leclerc is the one delivering results, then he should be the priority. They can't afford to waste time playing nice when Red Bull, McLaren, and maybe even Mercedes will be waiting to pounce on any mistakes. And speaking of Red Bull, what the hell is going on over there? Testing showed signs of weakness in the RB21, and Verstappen looked visibly frustrated at times. The car didn't seem as dominant as last year's machine, and reports suggest that Adrian Newey's latest creation might not be as bulletproof as previous Red Bulls. But let's be honest, this is Red Bull. They play the long game better than anyone. They don't need to dominate testing. They don't need to be the fastest every single day. What they need is a car that works well when it matters. And historically, they always figure it out. Even if Red Bull isn't untouchable at the start of the season, does anyone really believe they won't be in the title fight by mid-season? Verstappen is too good. Their strategy team is too smart. And even if Ferrari and McLaren think they're close, Red Bull still has the confidence of a team that's been crushing the competition for years. That's why Bahrain's opening race is going to be so crucial. If Ferrari wants to show the world they're serious, they must take the fight to Red Bull from race 1. They can't afford a slow start. They can't afford strategy blunders. They can't afford to let McLaren or Mercedes sneak into the mix while they sort themselves out. They need to be aggressive, they need to be fast, and they need to win. And what about McLaren? Let's not forget about Norris and Piastri. They showed serious pace in testing, and if the MCL38 is as strong as it looks, we could have a genuine three-way title fight on our hands. Norris has been knocking on the door of his first win for too long, and if McLaren delivers, this could finally be the season where he cements himself as a championship contender. Mercedes, meanwhile, is the biggest wild card of them all. They're not slow, but they're not exactly scaring anyone either. George Russell looked solid in testing, but Hamilton's departure has left a void in leadership that Mercedes is still figuring out how to fill. Can they compete at the front, or will 2025 be another year of we're learning and we need more data before they finally get back to winning ways? So here we are, just days away from the first race of the season, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Ferrari has the car. They have the drivers. They have the momentum. But will they finally get it right? Hamilton is desperate to prove he can still fight for titles. Leclerc is desperate to prove Ferrari is his team. Verstappen is desperate to shut everyone up and remind them who the reigning champion is. Norris is desperate for his first win. And Mercedes? Well, they're desperate to be relevant again. The only thing guaranteed about 2025 is that it won't be boring. So what do you think? Will Ferrari finally break the curse and win a title for the first time since 2008? Will Hamilton prove the doubters wrong and add an 8th world championship to his name? Or will Verstappen and Red Bull remind everyone why they've been the most dominant force in modern F1? Drop your predictions in the comments, hit that subscribe button, and turn on notifications. Because trust me, you don't want to miss a single second of this.